Doors are opening. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage the President of the Society of Women Engineers, Penny Hewson.
Good morning. Wow, what another fabulous crowd. And it is a beautiful morning. It is 53 degrees outside, so really, really nice for Minneapolis. On behalf of the Society of Women Engineers Board of Directors, I welcome all of you to Minneapolis and to WE18, the world's largest conference and career fair for women in engineering and technology. I just love saying that. Thank you for joining us this morning. And hello for those of you who are watching the event on live stream. Before we welcome our Friday morning keynote, Marilyn Houston, to the stage, I would like to recognize a few people who helped make this morning and WE18 possible. I would like to first acknowledge the dedication and hard work of SWE's volunteer leaders, beginning with our Board of Directors. So would the Board of Directors please stand and be recognized? Next, I would like to recognize SWE's Conference Advisory Board. They have the task of defining the objectives for SWE's annual conference, including selecting our keynote speakers, and ensuring that each event properly supports the Society's mission and values. Will the CAB members please stand and be recognized? So WE18 kicked off on Wednesday night with our annual ice cream social, and that's always a treat. How many of you were there? Yay? Yay? It was a lot of fun. The Minneapolis Host Committee and the hundreds of attendees who have filled over 700 volunteer shifts have truly welcomed us to the city full of surprises. At this time, I ask the members of the Minneapolis Host Committee to please stand, and all of this week's volunteers, I know there are a lot of you, to please stand and let us offer our sincerest thank you for your time and commitment to WE18. And finally this morning, as we enjoy our lovely cup of coffee or tea, or maybe a cold pop, as they call it here, we will hear from our morning keynote speaker, which is made possible by the generous support of our sponsors, Lockheed Martin, Medtronic, Ecolab, and Flint Hills Resources. Yes, yes. The support of these renowned organizations calls attention to the value they place on promoting diversity and inclusion in the workforce and their desire to reach a talented pool of candidates while supporting their current employees as they develop their careers. At this time, some of our sponsors will offer brief remarks about why they have chosen to be with us today. First, let's welcome Carol Malnati, Vice President of Research and Development for Cardiac Rhythm and Heart Failure of Medtronic, to the stage.
Good morning. Welcome to my hometown of Minneapolis, Minnesota. How many are from Minneapolis? Yay! Boy, what an amazing conference yesterday, and what an inspiring collection of world-changing leaders in this room. I consider all of you my sisters in engineering. That's right. My name is Carol Malnati, and I'm proud to be representing my company, Medtronic. We are sponsoring the keynote speaker, Marilyn Houston, and we're a global leader in life-saving medical therapy. 30 years ago, and just down the road at Minneapolis, University of Minnesota University. Anybody from the U of M? All right. I was breaking boundaries by graduating with an electrical engineering degree in a time when only 4% of women were graduating with that same degree. When I was looking for my career, I knew Medtronic was the right place for me. And I heard their mission statement, and it really connected engineering to helping humans. I just couldn't pass this up, even though 30 years ago, they were a little-known company, and my dad thought I was a bit crazy for passing up more prestigious, well-known companies. But I told him, Dad, listen to this mission statement. I think they got it right. A bit of the mission reads, to contribute to human welfare by application of biomed engineering, to alleviate pain, restore health, and extend life. I knew that I had to try and contribute as best I could to this mission. I had the fortunate opportunity to start my career on a small innovative team that was also breaking boundaries, creating the world's first implantable defibrillator. This is a device that actually stops the heart that's racing too fast, and it's racing so fast that it's a deadly condition and patients die within minutes. Today, these therapies benefit, and many others that we create benefit 2 people every second. So we have an amazing impact on the world. One of these lives this past year ended up being my son's math teacher. It's pretty hard to get your 13-year-old to talk about what he did in school, but he was really proud to come home and report that when he noticed his teacher had a Medtronic keychain and asked her about it, he said, Mom, she told me that she has a defibrillator. Isn't that what you work on? And I said, it is. She probably has one of the many devices that we've created in the past 30 years. And he said, Mom, she told me that it not only saved her life once, but it saved her life 5 times. Many years ago, my oldest daughter, I have 4 children, when she was 5 and just going into kindergarten as I was starting my career at Medtronic, summarized my job as my mommy fixes broken hearts. I thought that was pretty appropriate. On that first small innovative team, I was the only female engineer for the first 5 years of my career. However, I'm really proud to report now that we've made much progress and we are well on our way to achieving our 2020 aspirational corporate goal of 40% women in leadership positions. Much of this success is due to 2 corporate initiatives, the Medtronic Women's Network, and then a special diversity program that I've been leading for the past 3 years, which is really to advance women in STEM. One of the diversity programs I'm most proud of that we've created with many of the fantastic Medtronic employees in the audience today, as well as in conjunction with our partners with SWE, is a program that we call Careers 2.0. This is a program that allows women who have left the workplace for various reasons to come back and work at Medtronic in their STEM fields. Another very touching story, one of our first Careers 2.0 hire was a woman called Amanda. Amanda lost her son when he was about 3 years old to a medical condition that technology just wasn't able to help. Amanda is now working at Medtronic, healing herself from that loss, as well as helping others create technologies as they are seeking help for their loved ones. We've given new purpose to Amanda's life. Breaking many barriers along the way and fast forwarding 30 years later, I have the honor of leading the single largest engineering organization at Medtronic, leading the engineers that create those same defibrillators that I was part of the innovation team 30 years ago building from scratch. These engineers deliver innovations which support the $5 billion in revenue for our cardiac business alone. Innovation is really the lifeblood of Medtronic, and our engineers are at the center of that innovation. It's my belief that on our engineering teams, diversity is really a critical part to innovation. It's through diverse perspectives that we challenge our assumptions, that we assess a broad range of options, and that we are able to co-create the best possible innovative solutions for our patients that need our care and our therapies. Across Medtronic, we have over 9,000 global engineers from all engineering disciplines. All of these engineers really do have careers that change lives. And speaking from personal experience, not just changing the lives of others and our patients, but also the lives of ourselves with the fulfilling work that we get to do day in and day out. In closing, all of us in this room, all of these great world-changing leaders, we have a great opportunity and even greater responsibility to leverage our engineering skills, to break boundaries, to use our voices, and to create a future unlike today. Enjoy the rest of the conference, and thank you.
Thank you, Carol, and Medtronic once again. Next, please welcome Alex Blanco, Executive Vice President and Chief Supply Chain Officer with Ecolab, to say a few words.
Good morning. Good morning. How are we doing? Look, I've done this many, many times, but I've never done it with my daughter sitting in the front row, and I'm scared to death. So I want to put that out there. So Penny, thank you very much. Thanks for the opportunity. Ecolab and I are really honored to be sponsors of this sweet conference, and it's great to be here. But let's talk a little bit about Ecolab first of all. Who is Ecolab? I remember when I joined Ecolab about 6 years ago, I remember thinking they're a laboratory or something. I don't know what they really were. And so Ecolab is a global leader in water, hygiene, and energy technologies and services. We help generate clean water, we help make safe food, we help generate abundant energy, and we help create healthy environments. We try to make the world safer, cleaner, and healthier every day. So how do we do that? We do that by helping to clean 40 billion pairs of hands. We do it by helping food manufacturers make about 40% of the processed food safe. We do it by helping restaurants serve 45 billion meals. I had to check that number, and apparently it's very, very well vetted. We help restaurants do that in a safe way. We help produce 44% of the processed milk supply. And then on the industrial side, we help generate 22% of the world's power, and we help manage about 1 trillion gallons of water. So it's really an interesting and exciting mission. But we're here to talk about women in engineering. Ecolab hires and recruits women in engineering for sales, for service, for RD&E, and for supply chain, which I lead for Ecolab. We do it because it's the right thing to do. We believe in a diverse and inclusive workforce. We think that that's the right answer. But to be honest with you, we do it because it makes business sense. We do it because we believe the diversity of opinions and thoughts and perspectives in an inclusive environment leads to solutions for our customers and for our shareholders that are better and better outcomes. We believe diversity and inclusion leads to growth, and it's part of the reason that we do this. Ecolab has multiple employee resource groups. We call them ERGs. And I personally am the sponsor for the Hispanic group for Ecolab. But one of our most active groups is the group dedicated to leadership and development of women. It's got over 2,000 members and about 12 branches around the world, and it's a global group. These groups really drive the power of that group. I'll talk a little bit about supply chain for a second, if I could. Supply chain has a leadership development program that I inherited, actually. We hire engineers, we bring them in, we develop them for about 5 years, and then we put them into senior roles in the company. It is a fabulous program, and 75% of the engineers that we brought in last year into that leadership development program in Ecolab were women. And so we're very, very proud of that program. Supply chain also has a program where we were recognized externally for women in manufacturing, the STEP Awards, and we've had multiple winners in the last several years. So we're very, very proud of that progress. So I want to talk a little bit about myself, though, and why I'm here and why this is important to me. As I mentioned, I've been with Ecolab now for about, it'll be 6 years, or as the Minnesotans count, 5 winters so far. I spent about 35 years, I've got 35 years of supply chain experience. I met my wife at P&G, my former employer. I'm a mechanical and aerospace engineer by training. My wife is an industrial, she's got her master's in industrial engineering. My son is a computer engineer, and my daughter is an electrical engineer. Yeah. We do spreadsheets for vacations. She does it. I'm just saying. I'll pay for that later. So listen, part of the reason that I do this, and part of the reason that I aspire to be an advocate for women, is I saw how hard it was for my wife. My wife came to the mainland. She's from Puerto Rico. She came here and had struggled with English. Came in as an engineer, started working as an engineer in the world. She was one of few. And on the one side, I always kid around that in the plant we were at, we had about 1,000 people in the plant we started working in, and there were 2 Hispanics, and I married the other one. But it was a rough journey, and she spent about 25 years with P&G, and then she retired. She's now a consultant. But part of my mission in life is to make it better for other people, and obviously, hopefully, to try to make it better for my daughter. As the world has changed, but it's not fixed yet. It's not the place that we really want it to be. And I want to personally dedicate myself to make it an environment where everybody can contribute and feel good about what they're doing and feel free to achieve their full potential. And so that's why I'm here. That's why I'm proud to be part of Ecolab's Diversity and Inclusion Council. And I'm proud to help sponsor this conference. So thank you very much. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Alex, and Ecolab for your support. He did tell me he was very nervous about speaking in front of his daughter, so I think he did great. Next, please welcome Martina List, a business team leader with Flint Hills Resources.
Hello, everyone. It is wonderful to see such a large crowd here today to see our keynote speaker, Marilyn Houston. My name is Martina List, and I am a chemical engineer and business team leader at a refinery for Flint Hills Resources here in Minnesota. As someone who has not been involved with SWE ever since college, and college was a little bit longer ago than you guys might think, looking at me, I was really excited to hear that WE18 was being held in Minneapolis this year, because we at Flint Hills Resources would have the opportunity to sponsor this event, and I would personally have a great opportunity to reconnect with an organization that influenced me when I was a student. So I had a very memorable experience when I was in college. I went to my first SWE National Conference when it was being held in Long Beach, California, and I remember listening to a speaker who was an engineer at Disneyland, and she was talking about her career and her job there. And I remember being incredibly struck by how confident she was and how, what a great command she had of the subject she was talking about. And even more, I was struck by how incredibly excited she was about her job and how happy she was about her career. So when I walked out of that room, it was an infectious feeling, and I remember thinking that that is what work should feel like. And so just like that, the bar was set for me, and I knew what I wanted. And that is the power of inspiration. So I've been similarly inspired since then by some of the extraordinary women engineers in my life. But the theme of this year's conference, Let's Break Boundaries, tells us that we're only getting started. My colleagues and I at Flint Hills Resources are passionate about paying it forward and trying to find moments, both big and small, to inspire young girls. And I know that everyone in this room is in a similar position. We want to inspire them to be problem solvers who aren't afraid to get a little bit of dirt under their fingernails, to be businesswomen who take pride in producing products that help people every day, and to be innovators who are never satisfied by the status quo. Now, at this point in our careers, Most of us don't have the opportunity to stand in front of an auditorium full of young women. And I can tell you, this is the largest audience I have ever spoken in front of. But we can have an impact. And every day is an opportunity to go out there and be a role model and just do what we do and share our experiences with our communities and through organizations like SWE. So I would like to thank the Disneyland engineer who inspired me and made such an impression on me so many years ago. And I want to thank our keynote speaker, Marilyn, in advance for continuing to break boundaries and raising the bar. And I would like to thank SWE for continuing to put together amazing conferences like this one. Thank you.
Please turn your attention to our screens for a brief message from our final sponsor, Lockheed Martin.
Great design is timeless, but the future always beckons, opening new doors to new possibilities, empowering us to imagine new solutions to the world's most complex challenges. In the future, Lockheed Martin engineers immerse themselves in revolutionary design systems, turning ideas into solutions at speeds we can't even imagine today. Our scientists design groundbreaking materials and define a whole new art of the possible for the solutions we deliver. Our teams work together across space and time, guided by cognitive assistants that put our entire legacy at our fingertips. A digital tapestry makes possible a seamless flow of knowledge, connecting us and all our partners. Humans and intelligent machines work side by side in this factory of the future. Artificial intelligence automates testing and accelerates our journey to first flight. Digital twins of our platforms make it possible to sustain and improve them, even after they've left the factory. Integrated solutions are delivered to our customers to safeguard all we hold dear. Our passion for innovation extends to the generation after next. Great design is timeless. At Lockheed Martin, the future is closer than you think.
Please welcome to the stage our Friday morning keynote, Marilyn Houston, joined by Penny Hewson.
Welcome, Marilyn.
Thank you, Penny. It's great to be with all of you today.
Yes, well, I'm going to give a brief introduction just so we can highlight some of the fabulous things that you've done. Marilyn Houston is the Chairman, President, and Chief Executive Officer of Lockheed Martin Corporation, a global security and aerospace company that employs approximately 1,000 people worldwide, as you've seen. Prior to assuming her role as CEO, Marilyn held a variety of increasingly responsible executive positions within the corporation, including President and Chief Operating Officer and Executive Vice President of Lockheed Martin's Electronics System Business Area. Marilyn joined Lockheed Martin more than 35 years ago as an industrial engineer, and throughout her career has held several operational leadership positions. Marilyn has been recognized as one of the world's 100 most powerful women by Forbes. And this year, yes, well, that's cool. And this year was named the 2018 CEO of the Year by Chief Executive Magazine. And the #1 most powerful woman in business by Fortune. So give a great warm welcome. So Marilyn, thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule, not only to travel to WE18, but also to sit here today and have this fireside chat. So how about we get started?
Great.
So you became CEO of Lockheed Martin in 2013. And since then, the company stock has grown more than 250%. Your customers say that you've driven stronger partnerships with them, and you've built your company's reputation on listening. Looking back on your success, did you set your sights on becoming CEO early in your career? And what was it like when you got the call to let you know that you were selected for this position?
Well, thank you, Penny. First of all, thank you for inviting me to be with all of you today. You know, I was backstage listening to all the passion and energy in this room, and it just tells me what an important group of women here, accomplished women, that are supporting other women to focus on STEM careers. So thank you for all you're doing to aspire as well as inspire so many women. And that's why I'm here today, because I think this is such an important organization and important for all of us as women to continue to promote women pursuing STEM careers. To your question about, did I always aspire to be CEO of the corporation? No. It's not something that was on my radar screen. Think about it, 35 years ago as an industrial engineer in our manufacturing facilities in Marietta, Georgia. It wasn't something that was front and center for me. I just wanted to do my best on my job every day. But what I always wanted to do was to continue to grow professionally, and so always looking for opportunities to grow, and that's what I would encourage you to do. It means taking risks. It means as you grow professionally, you've got to get out of your comfort zone, take on something new, and that's what I did. And I think it's that collection of experiences over the course of my career that at some point in my career, I realized that, yes, I could run a company. So I ran some companies for Lockheed Martin, but could I be a CEO at some point in my career? Yes, but not early on. That was not my aspiration from the outset. To your point about what happened then, in my particular case, I was the president and COO aspirant for the corporation. I'd been appointed to that position to move into that role. And the next in line to go into CEO did not make it into that role, and so I was ready to step right in as the CEO. So I look back on what Lockheed Martin did to prepare me for that, all of the experiences, all of the professional development, all the opportunities I had with the corporation, and then what I would do personally to work hard and do my best on my job every day. I think that's what set me up. So when that moment came and the board of directors said, "Are you ready?" I said, "Yes, I'm ready."
Yes. What a fabulous story, so thank you. So here with us this week are many of our nation's top female engineers. They're bright, talented, driven women who are pursuing or already have degrees in STEM fields, which are in very high demand. You've been with Lockheed Martin now for more than 35 years. What has made you stay with that particular company for so long?
Well, I'll just reflect back on the video that you just had the opportunity to view. Lockheed Martin is just an incredible company, but more importantly, it's a national asset. What we do in our company to help the men and women in uniform, to protect our citizens, to advance global discovery and knowledge for the world is just inspiring to me. And I grew up in a family. My parents were both patriots. My father was a civilian with the Department of the Army. My mother was a nurse during World War II with the Women's Army Corps. So they had this great sense of patriotism to give back to the country that they loved. And they instilled that in their children and in me. And so I view that my opportunity to work at Lockheed Martin is where I can serve our country in a very important company that supports our nation's national security and our progress and our economic security as well. And that sense of patriotism drew me to the company. We have 100,000 men and women at Lockheed Martin. And I would tell you, when I talk to people that come to our company, it's because they want to be a part of the purpose of our company, the mission that we have, the interesting and challenging work, the things that we do to help protect your families and my family is inspiring for us. And that purpose around innovation and growth and how we supply those capabilities is what inspired me.
Oh, thank you. So 4 of the 5 leaders of the top aerospace and defense companies are female, which is fabulous. Recent studies are showing more and more that diversity in leadership can drive business success. What qualities do you think are most important in making you a successful leader?
You know, I reflect on leadership a lot, and I have throughout my career, and I know this group of accomplished women often think about how you can continue to be a better leader. I've always been a student of leadership. I continue to be a student of leadership today. But when I reflect on what I think are the important qualities of a leader, I think it first starts with character and compassion. You know, people follow a leader for a number of reasons, but that character and compassion, that ability to demonstrate your values align with those that are following you is critically important. People trust leaders when they can see their values, not only in what they do and the decisions they make, but in the way that they treat people every day. I think secondly, it's competence. I mean, they're looking for a leader who they can follow, who digs in and whatever the mission is or the responsibility is, if it's an organization, if it's a company, they understand that business. They're always looking beyond today on how they can take the organization forward. They're focused on what is the vision for this organization and making sure they communicate it clearly and concisely to those who are following them. So I think that competence is important. And then I would say courage. You know, as leaders, we often have good times and bad times. And I work with a lot of leaders who have been in this business for many times. In our business, like most businesses, you have ups and downs. And you have times when you have to make some tough decisions. And to have that compassion to communicate to the employees that are affected by that you understand where the organization is today. There's some things you can't control, but what you can control is taking the organization forward. So that stability that you set around that, instilling the trust that they know where you're going to go next, that you have compassion about those who are affected by the change that's happening, but that you also have hope and you have that hopeful outlook on where you're taking the organization. And I think, so back to that, sense of strong character, honest, transparent, integrity with the values that we're all looking for in our leadership, that compassion about the people that you're leading, about the work that you're doing, the competency that you take forward, and then the courage to do what you need to do in order to take the organization forward, to support your customers and to support your employees.
Yeah, that rings so true for me, so thank you. Early in your career, were you often the only woman in the room? And did that feel like your way of breaking boundaries? And can you talk about how you handled it then and how you handle it now?
Well, yes, I was. You look at the aerospace and defense industry and you look back over 30 years ago, there weren't a lot of women in leadership. And early in my career, I was a manager within a couple of years or so within the company that I was working in Lockheed. And so often I was the only woman in the room. But what I found at that time was that just like any team that you join, you come in with the credibility and the capability that you want to be a member of the team, and you work, and soon gender is not an issue. But today, as I look at Lockheed Martin, 1 in 5 of our leaders are women. Over 23% of our employees are women. This pipeline of women has come up over those years, and we work hard on it very deliberately on how we provide opportunities for women and men in our organization. But we want more women to move up within the organization. In fact, we create a lot of things within the company to focus on making women feel more connected, making them see that they can achieve their personal and professional aspirations at Lockheed Martin.
Yeah, and that leads into our next question. I understand you formed a women's leadership forum at Lockheed Martin. Can you tell me what encouraged you to do that and why it was important to you?
Yes, well, today we have, a network of women, we call it WIN, or the Women's Initiative Network, which is, some of them are here with you today. 15 years we celebrate this year, so it's been around for a long time. But it did start with a small nucleus of women. I happened to be working in the corporate office at the time. There was about 6 or 8 women at the corporate office at Lockheed Martin. I was running our shared services business, and we said, why don't we get together? There's so few of us among all the men. Why don't we get together? Let's, have lunch once a month. We can talk about challenges we have, whether it's in the job or with managing families or things that are common to us, or as a woman, how we're making our way in this company. And after about 6 months of these very interactive luncheons that we enjoyed so much, we said, why don't we broaden the circle? So we did. We started then reaching out to the most senior women in the corporation and had a session with them. And now today, I'm proud to say that we have a very extensive network in the WIN network all across our corporation, chapters throughout the corporation, every region of our business where women are meeting regularly. Once a year, we bring together about 300 women at the corporate office, where we spend time talking about challenges that we have to make the workplace better so that we can make our company better, focusing on their professional development, focusing on what we can do to continue to take Lockheed Martin forward. And it's very exciting. Every year I get an opportunity to spend time with this just incredible group of women that are very talented, that are frankly ingenious, and it's exciting time for me, and it's coming up here soon.
Oh, great. Well, thank you. So obviously you've always been highly engaged in your work, and also in those extracurricular activities that make a difference for your company, your colleagues, and your community. What has been your approach to work and family life balance?
Well, that's a great question. I think that all of us struggle with, and I say that, that maybe women more so than men because of the child giver in a lot of traditional environments or supporting parents, but frankly, men and women are challenged with how we integrate our outside of work with our work life and make sure that we can do, I don't know if balance is the right way, but look at different phases in our work life where we've got to make decisions and choices. And in my particular case, my husband and I give a lot of credit to James, my husband, because I married my college sweetheart, so you can imagine how many years we've been married. But we decided early on, facing a 2-career family, that we would go whichever direction, whoever had the best opportunity. It wasn't a male-female matter, it was whoever had the best opportunity. And it just turned out that my careers had a more stable path and I moved along. And so at one point both of us had careers moving along, but my job was moving us from Georgia to Texas. And we had, imagine this, a 3- and a 6-year-old, 2 sons. And of course our house was already pretty hectic with a 2-career family. But we decided this was a really big move for our family and that we should try having one of us stay at home. And clearly it was because of my job that we were moving. So my husband started a business from home. And he was the at-home parent for our children. So he then became the scout leader and the coach and went on all the school field trips and did all the things that the parent at home typically would do. And then I had more quality time to spend with our kids. Now, today that's a pretty common model. You see a lot of that, but that was not a common model when my children are now in their 60s, they're 20. I'm in my 60s. They're 20s, but when they look back on that, to me, that was the right decision for us. Every family has to make what decision makes sense for them. We never changed that model. James stayed home with the boys and continued to do his at-home business, but had more flexibility with that. And today, I think we raised really fine, quality men, and I'm very proud of them. But each family, I say, has to decide what makes sense for them. I mean, in some cases, there are 2-career families, and you get household help, you do other things. That's what we chose to do, and it worked for us.
Yeah. Well, thank you for sharing that, because I know that impacts a lot of people in the audience, so thank you. One of the biggest social issues of our time is the Me Too movement. So what impact do you see that having on business?
You know, it's a very serious situation that's arisen. It's shaped a lot of discussion and a lot of focus that I think is probably important to have, particularly the media industry and other industries where it was raised, but it affects all businesses. And you know, as we look at it at Lockheed Martin or any company should do, we go back to what are the values of our company? To do what's right, to respect others, and to perform with excellence. And that means in that do what's right and respecting of others, it means treating people with dignity and respect in all aspects. Employees, suppliers, customers, every stakeholder that we deal with in our company. And I think companies should just step back and look at, are they living their values? Are they really focusing on those values and making sure? Now, in our company, we have policies and procedures that have been in place for many, many years. We do not tolerate any inappropriate behavior like that, but it's important to recognize and remind employees every day, we have a basic set of core values that define every decision, every action that we make in our company. And we spend time focusing on that, training, discussing our ethics and our core values throughout the company.
Yeah, well, thank you. Another very current topic. So, as part of your job, you work with leaders from around the world. Can you tell us how you approach conducting business on a global stage as a woman?
Well, yes, it's a very important element of our company. You know, when I took over as CEO, about 17% of our sales were outside of the U.S. Today, we've grown that to 30% of our sales. So you can see the growth of our global operations and the things that we're doing for customers around the world. But we've been doing business internationally for many years, roughly 70 countries around the world that we do business in. And I personally recognize that there are certain things only the CEO can do. There's certain world leaders or heads of defense or other things that only want to meet with the head of the company. And so I travel a lot internationally. I think in the last 18 months, I've been to 17 international trips where I meet with leaders, where I attend air shows and global security conferences and places where there's a group of leaders and customers there, so a wide range of discussions there. And what I've found is that as leaders of our allies and friends around the world, they are facing very challenging environments. If you look at the global security threats, they're very unpredictable, they're accelerating, they're very challenging. And at the same time, while we're seeing an upswing in the global economy, they also have issues around their budget pressures. And so they're looking for what are the innovative solutions to help us deal with this unpredictable, challenging environment to protect our citizens, but how do we do that in the most affordable manner? So I have those discussions with the leaders. I think it's important that you are on the front lines as a leader talking to your customers. One of the most important things is listening to those customers and understanding what their priorities are and how you can help them to achieve what they need to do to protect their citizens and to make their economy secure so people can invest and trade and progress. And as a global world, we can achieve the prosperity that we all want for our peoples. And listening to them directly and then responding is what I find is important. Now, obviously, I don't do every business deal because there's a lot of work around the world, but I do open doors through that dialogue that then allows others in our company to be able to go and meet with the right people in those countries to talk about opportunities that we can support them on.
Yeah, okay, well, thank you. So you mentioned global travel and meeting and talking to leaders from every corner of the world. As you look at the changes we're facing as a nation, what concerns you most about the future?
Well, as I look at the nation, it's kind of back to what I talked about before. I mean, we want economies where people feel safe and secure so that they can raise their families, they can have good jobs, they can continue to prosper and grow and participate in the advanced scientific discovery and challenges that we have. But we've got to make sure that through that process, we address the challenges we have on a national security front, as well as economic security. And that means what we really need are scientists and engineers. That means for my business, as I speak from my perspective, but any one of you that are in business in this audience or aspire to be in business will find that one of the key things this country has as a challenge is the gap that we face for STEM careers. We are not seeing enough people move into science, technology, engineering, and math in their early grade school up through high school to college and into the workplace. And that's why I'm so excited to have an opportunity to speak to all of you here at SWE, because you know that you get it, you know how important it is, and that you're reaching back and out to girls and setting example for girls to pursue STEM education and then STEM careers. In our company, you know, we set aside a certain amount of dollars that we devote to philanthropic initiatives, things where we give back, where we're a good corporate citizen, and half of those dollars are focused on STEM because we think it's so critically important. The other half, just to finish the story, is on military and their families, because that also is very important to us, some of which has a STEM component. But it is, I've been focused on this throughout my career, from a young industrial engineer to today, recognizing this gap is there, and we've got to continue to focus on that gap. And it takes all of us. It takes all of us in government, in business, in NGOs, in academia, all throughout, focusing on this gap. Frankly, you know, it's got to start at earlier ages. I've been working with the administration and others on things that you can do in internships and apprenticeships, but even getting back into high schools, into computer science courses, and making sure every high school has science and technology as a forefront, and is exciting students all the way down into the early grades in kindergarten and beyond, where you bring in examples and get engineers in the classroom, get women in the classroom to be examples for them. I think that gap for STEM is going to hold us back as the technology leader in the world if we don't get more people to move into STEM careers.
Yeah, well, SWE is certainly working on that, so thank you for helping us with that. As you mentioned, Lockheed Martin does a lot of work to encourage students to get involved in the STEM fields. Can you talk about what approaches you've seen that help keep students interested in pursuing these STEM studies and STEM careers? And how have you seen STEM help break boundaries for women and underrepresented minorities?
Well, as I mentioned, some of the things that we find are really important is, you know, you've got to get in the classrooms, and you've got to give students, among the many things that they're faced with, you've got to give them exciting, interesting things that they can work on and make that connection. Whether it's we bring engineers in the classroom, or we participate with things like Project Lead the Way, or First Robotics, or you know, some of the work that's being done across a myriad of organizations, Girls Who Code. I mean, there's just a range of organizations that are reaching out and helping students not just, you know, see it, but feel it, hands-on, engaged in projects and examples, and inspiring that excitement and that, you know, energy around what it's like. But I also think it's important for particularly the women in this audience and your colleagues across the nation to get in the classrooms yourselves. You are examples. You are the ones that can be the example, not just for your daughters or your nieces or your friends' daughters, but for a range of young girls to consider a STEM career. Just imagine how fun and exciting it is to be in the jobs and in the academic track that you're on, and create that and inspire that excitement in young girls. We also recognize that getting people to practice and involved in it. So we have a lot of internships, we have apprenticeships, we bring girls in at younger ages and spend a week in our facilities. And another important constituent are the teachers, because if the teachers really get it, if they are really excited about it, they're going to demonstrate that passion and excitement in the classroom. So we don't want to, you know, we also want to reach out and make sure they're a part of that. We as a company are involved in a whole range of important initiatives around STEM that, as I said, we give money to, but more importantly, we volunteer for. Our employees volunteer all around the nation in classrooms and in different organizations.
Yeah. And that visibility is so important to see that there are women who are engineers. Thank you. I understand that Lockheed Martin employs almost 50,000 scientists and engineers. With such a pipeline to build and maintain, it's no wonder that STEM education is a priority for you. What is your company's approach to STEM programs, and is there a particular STEM initiative that Lockheed Martin has led that you are most proud to support?
Well, I've cited some of the STEM initiatives that we have. One of the things that we do is we try to focus not only what we can do in the communities where we work and live as Lockheed Martin employees or as an employer in that area to get in the classrooms earlier, up into high school and do internships and things like that, even to high schoolers into our company. I think all of that is important, and I've talked a lot about that. But we also have a very extensive college recruiting effort where we focus on colleges and universities that we go into those universities and work directly with the pipeline of talent that we want to consider Lockheed Martin, and the internships and cooperative initiatives that we have as we can bring them into our business and expose them to what we do at Lockheed Martin. And we're very successful with that. People want to come work on some of the most interesting and challenging work in the world, and we're excited that they are. But we also recognize that it doesn't have to be a 4-year degree for us to get people excited. And so, we have Code Quest, which is an initiative we started some years ago where we got teams of students that compete on a coding initiative, and it's continued to grow, and it's something that I'm very proud of that we created at Lockheed Martin itself.
Mm-hmm. Well, great. Well, thank you, Marilyn, for sharing your insights and advice with us today. It's clear that throughout your career, you've found ways to break boundaries and barriers, and proven that through hard work and dedication, we can all achieve the goals that we set out to achieve. So thank you. I would like to turn it over to the audience to see what questions they might have for you, and I believe that there may be some questions from Twitter. Perfect. Thank you so much. Okay. So, number one, you mentioned earlier that you often have to take risks in order to get where you are now. What is the biggest risk you took?
Wow, that's kind of a tough question, I think, because I take a lot of risk. Prudent risk, I might add. I haven't really thought about that question directly, but I guess making a major move from one facility to another. I was in Marietta, Georgia for 13 years. I moved up through the organization through a range of different positions, from industrial engineer to supervisor to manager to director, a typical organization of anywhere from 14 to 20,000 people at any one point in time, and came up through that. Making the decision to move my family to Fort Worth, Texas. It happened to be another location for Lockheed Martin, because within Lockheed Martin, you don't have to change companies in order to broaden your experience and your capability. We have opportunities all around where people want to change. And I was offered a promotion that was good for my family. It was good for me to continue to grow and develop in the company, and made the decision to make that move. But as I shared with you earlier, I had a young family. It affected my husband's change in his job for us to make that move. And, I look back on it, I realize that it's often hard for families to make a decision to move from a geographical area, or even for an individual to make a change from one area that they've grown up in as their domain of their knowledge to move into a whole different organization or something like that. What I encourage you to do, because it was right for me, is get out of your comfort zone. What I think has made me more successful as a leader over the years is the collection of experiences that I get throughout my career. And being willing to work hard on today's job, but when opportunities come along to serve on a special project or to change into another department or to have an opportunity to move to another operation, maybe somewhere else, that's where you build those experiences. And that's what, as you get on up through your careers, allows you to deal with that next opportunity or challenge that you face. It'll be different, but you're going to draw on that collection of experiences. And to me, that's what makes an effective leader, someone that's able to build on the experience and the education that they have to make good, sound decisions and take the organization forward. So I guess that, and I hadn't really reflected on it, but great question by whoever put that forward. That was a big risk to make a move to a totally different company where no one, frankly, knew me other than the hiring leader there, and it was a change. But frankly, I'd say it was a phenomenal change for me and my family. First off, the family was happy and progressed, and my kids look back on that as a very positive time for them. In fact, one of them is still in Texas today. And then beyond that, I think for me personally, it was a growth opportunity for me that propelled me into other opportunities.
Yeah, it can be a little scary,
Yes.
but it is a great opportunity, so thank you. Let's see, what is the best piece of advice you ever received to prepare you as CEO?
I think the advice probably wasn't given in the sense of preparing me for CEO, okay. But the advice I often got was rely on what you bring to the table, and I would tell that to all of you in this room, very accomplished women. Mm-hmm. Often women and men have told me they have the same thing. You often are such high achievers, and you're so accomplished, and you're continually looking at the next way that you can perform and continuously improving yourself. I mentioned being a student of leadership. I know many of you are. And I put a lot of pressure on myself. And I would say, early in my career, I might have hesitated to make a change because I thought I wasn't quite ready. Well, frankly, let me tell you, that job you go into will be the first time for anybody that takes that job. And I've often told people about this little voice in the back of my head that said, are you really ready for that yet? Are you? And I've even interviewed women that have come to me, and when I've offered them a position, they say, well, I've never done that before. And I said, yes, I understand that because I'm putting you in the job. So I guess the advice is, advice I've learned is that you should reflect on what you bring to that opportunity and not hold yourself back. I mean, you will be doing something different. But remember, the person that went into that job before you, it was new to them too. And to have confidence based on your track record, based on what you know you can do, and then dive in and put your best foot forward and rely on the fact to have the confidence that you've got what it takes, or they wouldn't have picked you to do that job. That advice early in my career, or maybe I, through that discussion, kind of rounded it out a little bit and remember that, quieting that voice in my head, I think was one of the things that helped inspire my confidence to continually say yes, and to look back and say, well, look what I accomplished there with my team. I can accomplish more with a bigger team, and I think that's an important way to look at it.
Yeah, and I know that you mentioned it's true for both men and women, but I do think it tends to be true for women more.
I think so.
That we're just very hesitant to take on a new job unless we feel we have all of the qualifications. So, okay, I think I have time for one more question. Can you give an example of an experience that shaped you as a leader?
I've had the good fortune of working in organizations that were humming, and I just wanted to take them to the next level as a new leader, and continue to sustain that success. And I've had companies where we've had challenges where something out of our control knocked the props out of that business, and as a leader, you're faced with that. As I said, in the defense industry and aerospace industry, it's a lot of ups and downs. It happens over over the course of any company. I mean, you see in retail or other companies that there are ups and downs, you'll always face them. And I guess one of the most growth opportunities for me, but also challenging for me, was when I took over a company as the president of that company, and then about 8 months into my role, the US government canceled our flagship program, and it meant that I had to lay off almost 25% of the workforce. And this was a big organization, 4,000 people. So think about what a major challenge that is for the leader. And what I think is important learnings from that is when you're faced with something like that with your employees, you've got to be upfront and clear and transparent on what's happening in the business at the time, what's happening that you can't control, but then what's happening that you can control. And so with our leadership team, we came together. We didn't hunker down and wring our hands in an office. We got out front and center in talking to employees and helping them understand, here's what's happening, here's how we're gonna deal with it, here's what we're gonna do in order to grow the business, to increase our employment. I'm happy to say that particular company is now, it's thriving, but that's a big challenge because you've got to show and feel the compassion for the individuals that are facing it, that are gonna leave the company because of business conditions, and compassion for those who are their friends and colleagues that are staying, and make sure everybody understands this is a challenging time for us, but it's a near-term challenge that leadership's gonna deal with, and we are gonna bring back those folks into this company because we're gonna turn it around and win new business into the company. It's also, so it's back to my discussion about compassion and trust that this is a leadership team that can take it forward. I also think it's important for stability to say, okay, we understand this, we know where we're going, and this is what we're gonna do. So to share with the organization your strategy, your vision, all the things you're gonna do to take the company forward. And I think I grew a lot in that process. I know that my direct leadership team did, who had never faced anything like that in their careers. I unfortunately had situations in the past of ups and downs. But I look back on that and realized that it was not something that any one individual in our company drove. It wasn't a performance issue by an individual. It was just the business conditions that drove it. And having that compassion to help those employees, we set them up and got their resumes done, we got them job support, we got them back on their feet in other jobs. And through that model, we use that a lot throughout our company whenever we're faced with ups and downs in the business.
Yeah, that is a tough situation that a lot of companies have gone through, so. Well, Marilyn, we know how busy you are, so we thank you for sharing your experience with us today and to show how you have paved the way for women in leadership, including diversity and inclusion. We appreciate you joining us today.
Thank you, Penny.
Thank you.
It's truly been an honor to be with all of you today. It's a privilege just to look out in this audience, and I know this is the future of our nation, and I thank you for all that you are doing individually and collectively in helping to inspire girls and to focus on STEM and taking our nation forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you. And thank you to everyone who joined us today. Thank you so much.